Wonderful, great to hear. So I will not take too much time. I leave the stage to you. Have fun. We see us later.
Okay, thank you very much. So my name's Clinton Jones, and with me is Rishi Deshpande. We're here today from Alex to show you how Alex handles data products and how we imagine them in the smart data catalog world, and also how the catalog can serve as a data marketplace and improve data intelligence. So for our show today, we're going to focus specifically on Snowflake and Power BI and how they're both represented in the catalog, and then how any business or technical user might use the catalog to support how they think about data products, and improved organizational data intelligence. So imagine that you're a retail company, a business with a cloud data platform running on Snowflake, and you're using Power BI for your reporting. Your data may be getting to Snowflake from somewhere else, and Rishi will show you that. But what you've done is you've enabled self-service reporting. And as a result, your business units have created thousands of dashboards over the years. But the challenge is that your KPIs and metrics are also scattered amongst those dashboards, and there's no central system of record. So what you want to do is you want to introduce distributed data governance, and you want to implement data products. But the question is, where do you start? And this is where our maturity and adoption framework model kicks in. And my colleague Rishi is now going to walk you through a journey of achieving distributed data governance and implementation of data products through the adoption of this maturity framework. Over to you, Rishi.
Awesome. Thanks for that, Clinton. So effectively, what we see here are the building blocks which will allow us to reach our end goal of implementing distributed data governance and eventually data products. Now, what we typically start with is establishing the data inventory, capturing the technical data lineage. And once we do that, we can start exploring things like the business glossary, which have our key KPIs, our metrics, and terms. We then start looking into things like data ownership, data quality, data security, which effectively all lay the foundation or the groundwork for coming up with data products. So in today's presentation, we'll take you through this journey of how you can come up with data products using the Alex tool. So let me jump into the Alex platform now. So like I said, the first step there is to start building the data inventory or the data catalog. And what we are looking at is the Alex Knowledge Graph. Now, the Alex Knowledge Graph gives me a comprehensive overview of the contents in the catalog. Now, as a part of that ingestion, Alex's automation using GenAI capabilities helps me organize this segment and classify them into different domains. For example, here we can see an AI-based classification, which has grouped all of the data within the catalog. Along with that, we can see that we have these filters on the right-hand side. Again, a lot of these filters are nothing but classifications, which help me further understand and organize the data that we have. Now, using Alex's integration with these different technologies, I can very easily navigate from the catalog, let's say, to the source technology of interest. So for example, I have a table here called Customer Master. From the data catalog, I have clear access to, let's say, the Snowflake platform straight away if that's what I want to do. So effectively, there's a very tight-knit integration between the catalog and the source systems themselves. Now, once we have built the data catalog, the next step, if you remember, on our maturity framework is to start exploring things like the business glossary element. So what I want to start looking at here is how do I manage my key KPIs and metrics within the business? So I've navigated away to the Alex glossary, which will also, we will see in the future sections how it contributes to my marketplace. But this time, I'm interested to see all of my key KPIs that we are using in the business. So if I drill into my KPI marketplace here or my swim lane, I can see a bunch of these KPIs. And again, using Alex's GenAI capabilities, all of these KPIs have been automatically segmented into different domains. So as an example, I can use these filters and say that, hey, I'm interested in my financial performance KPIs, and you can quickly find that information. I want to show you an example of a KPI here. So if I start drilling into this KPI, and you'll see why I'm going into this area, is we have your standard descriptions and definitions and all of the metadata, such as the calculations. But what I want to draw your attention to is actually the relationships that our knowledge graph allows us to draw. So as an example, we can see that my key KPI is actually linked to a couple of data sets here. It's linked and associated with the underlying metrics that make them up. And a report that is used for this KPI is also available here through the related to section.
Okay. So you've linked to KPIs but have you shown me the data sets piece? Because ultimately you want a KPI to be tied to a data set, right? So
that's right.
How is that all tied into and aligned with distributed data governance as well?
Now, that's a great question, Clinton. Now, by linking your KPIs to your data sets, you're actually drawing a clear relationship between the underlying business metrics and the data sources that drive them, which is very crucial for decision making. And in a distributed governance environment, this allows different teams to take ownership of these data sets to ensure that the calculation for these key KPIs, which help me understand how my business is going, are properly governed. Now, I'll show you a very quick example of how these data sets are actually created from scratch using automation in the Alex tool. Now, there's several different ways in which you can do this, but one of my personal favorite ones is to actually leverage some of the usage or operational metadata that the Alex connectors capture for us. So as an example, if I look at my usage dashboard here, we can see on the left-hand side all of these different reports, and on the right-hand side, we can see who are the users. Now, effectively, what insights I want to draw from this dashboard are what are some of the most frequently accessed reports, so I can start my investigation of identifying critical data to come up with my data sets. So here I can see that the sales performance report and revenue by region report are some of the most highly accessed reports in here. So what I can do now is I can actually come back and start investigating those reports to trace where did the data for those reports come from and identify some of those key data elements. So what we are looking at right now is one of those reports, which is most highly accessed in my organization. And in addition to all of the metadata that we have captured, that's great. But what I'm interested is actually the lineage of how this report was put together. So what we'll see now is Alex's data lineage service, and it allows me to very easily understand and consume all of the different sources from where the data for my report actually originates from. So we can see the source is the CIM application. It passes the data on to the ETL, and then in the data warehouse, we prepare the data and pass it on to the reporting layer. Now, if I start investigating here, we have a couple of different databases that pass the data for my report. And if I drill into the curated layer, I have some visual representations to, again, very quickly identify that, hey, we have some verified tables that feed my report of interest. So I, as a user, can actually start very quickly coming in, maybe drilling into one of these tables here, and then assigning a tag that, hey, maybe the customer demographics table, which is highly rated and verified, should be a part of my customer segmentation data set. Now, again, using Alex's automation, what we can do is start grouping these different objects, such as tables, to come up with published data sets. So as an example here, we can see we have the customer segmentation data set. Effectively, it's a collection of a bunch of these different tables. And as we've done that, we have started ticking off some of the foundations, such as tracking the underlying data quality, understanding its privacy ratings, understanding its currencies, the KPIs that relate to it, the usage information, which is all very important when we start coming up with our data products. Now, there is another way in which we can come up with these data sets. And again, a completely automated way is using Alex Gen AI capabilities, where the Gen AI can help me propose data sets based on capturing the underlying usage information, such as view definitions, data quality ratings, trust ratings, the knowledge graph associations to key reports. And based on all of that information, Alex has now presented me, let's say, an HR data set here, which is a collection of these 5 different tables. The AI also provides me some justification. So we can see that the AI has provided a detailed justification as to why I have grouped up all of these tables together. And it also gives me a reliability explanation, which is, again, key, tying back to the data quality insights, the privacy insights, the business curation that has happened, tells me that this is a highly reliable data set.
Okay, cool. So the data that you're showing us there, the words, are all Gen AI, right? They're all based on an analysis of content from the catalog or
That's
external
right.
catalog.
Yeah. And the
Okay.
beauty about that, Clinton, is Alex's Gen AI is completely configurable. We can point it at all of the underlying metadata that's captured in the catalog. So you're not limited to any information, but pretty much exposing our underlying metadata stores to the Gen AI.
Okay, great. And so what that also then means is that these data products or data sets could be single items, or they could be collections of items. It could be a combination of databases, tables, views, ETLs, reports, all could form that data product, right?
That's right. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Okay. Great. So that makes sense for dataset creation and data product creation. So how do we move to building data products in a more collaborative fashion? And what if the user, or say a consumer, can't find the linked data product that they're looking for?
Great question there, Clinton. So as you can see, we're building and growing from that maturity model. So we've established our data sets. I think before I answer that question, what I'll do there is I'm going to show you one of the first steps there is when consumers come in and try to find information. And if they don't find it, we have the workflow capabilities. And that's one of the ways in which people can start requesting a data product to be initialized. Now, effectively, the data products go beyond just a technical side. It requires detailed design and analysis, and the data steward typically drives a number of these activities. For example, the data steward needs to collaborate with the data quality teams to establish and understand the data quality. They need to liaise with the legal teams to establish your data sharing agreements, your data usage agreements. You have other metadata that helps further help people understand the data product. So effectively, there is a series of these collaborative capabilities that the data steward needs to go through, and they're guided using the Alex workflow that we've seen there. So what I'm going to do now is I'll jump to our marketplace and show you a published data product, and we can highlight some of the things that the steward has collaboratively put together by liaising with a number of different stakeholders within the organization. So accessing the marketplace is pretty straightforward in Alex. You can see your categories on the left-hand side. The first one there is are the published data products. So I can start entering my data product there itself. I can very easily start searching and filtering. As you've seen, there's a lot of automation in the Alex tool. Again, here we have some AI proposed classifications for the data product. So I can see that, hey, I'm interested in the customer related data products, and I can quickly narrow down on that. Another pretty cool capability there when it comes to searching, we have integration with chatbots as well. So just as an example here, even if I don't have access to the data catalog, I can actually use my Teams chatbot and say that, hey, can you show me any data products that are related to the customer detail? And what this does is actually it goes and searches the marketplace and then will present some of the top results back into my chat so that I can leverage, I can read about the descriptions, I can open them in the Alex tool, or I can simply click on the related URL, which will then give me access. But again, this shows how we make it pretty easy for people to discover the data products by embedding that into their processes. But coming back here, I said that I'm going to show you a published data product, and we'll see some of the key use cases that the data steward has collaboratively put together. So firstly, here we have a customer details data product. We can see a very detailed description. We can see from a governance perspective that distributed governance angle coming in, where we have responsible business units defined, the owners and the stewards defined, as well as some ratings. Now, what I'll show you next is the collaborative aspect of sourcing all of this information. So we have things like security classifications, we have business criticality, we have the data quality ratings, and we have the SLAs. So liaising with the data product team, they need to define the refresh frequencies, the SLAs that keep up this data product. And lastly, from the legal side as well, you have your usage agreements and sharing agreements that have all been aggregated into this data product. So the data steward was responsible for driving all of these activities in collaboration as a part of that workflow before a product gets initialized. Now that we've seen some of the, sorry, Clinton, yeah. So now that we've seen some of the metadata along this, I want to maybe spend just the next couple of minutes on the governance of the data product. Now, this is where Alex shines as well, is we can typically start as a part of the data steward activity is start defining a conceptual view of how this data product is actually constructed. And here's another pretty cool visualization where we can see that we have a concept of producer, processor, and consumer. So if I start looking at this conceptual view of my data product, I can see that the CRM application is my producer for my data product. I can see that the processor here, which has some visual cues that I'll come back to in a second, but we can see the data product itself is a part of my retail domain. It copies the data from the CRM as a raw layer. And then we have the customer details data product. And these are the elements that make up my data product. Now, from a governance perspective, what we can start doing is actually linking the rules and controls on each and every element that makes up my data product to ensure its accuracy, its validity. So in this case, for customer credit card, you can see you have a data retention control, you have a completeness check, you have a validity check. And since all of these were passed, I have the visual representation saying that it's DQ approved, and this is the authoritative source. What you also see on your screen here is another sub-product related. So if someone does not want access to the entire data product, we have a subset of the same data product, which is customer ages. So instead of getting access to the entire product, you now have access to a subset of that. But yeah, Clinton, I'll pass. You had a question?
Yeah. So this is quite interesting. Now you've shown me the same data, but through a number of different lenses, right? So you showed it to me through a knowledge graph. You showed me some detail through the business glossary or the detailed view of a particular asset, and then you showed me different business data flows based on different needs of the business. So you showed me a producer, consumer view, for example, and you showed me I think you showed me a technology based view as well, where you showed me CRM and then you showed me my staging environment. So that's great. I have lots of different ways of understanding the content within the catalog. It's all the same stuff, right? But what if I have found the thing I'm looking for and now I want access? How can you help me with that?
Yeah,
again, note, so 1 or 2 minutes left.
Fantastic. Thanks, Tim. So I think access request is pretty straightforward. You can hit the request access button. We integrate that with your service desk of choice. In this case, you have Jira. We can do that with things like ServiceNow as well. I think another thing that I wanted to really quickly cover, Clinton, is the governance aspect. So here what we see is the governance per data product. But I think what sets Alex apart here is our enterprise reporting applications where people can actually track the governance across all of the data products and see its progress. So here we can see that there's around 3,000 odd assets across these different business domains, which all make up my data product. So we can actually start seeing, hey, in the last year, how the growth on the assets have been, the trends with the steward, with the owners, and how many number of assets have been verified. We can drill into the ownership assignment as well. So as an example here, we can start seeing the number of stewards assigned, unassigned objects. So again, giving me that holistic kind of view on how ownership is actually spread across.
Okay, perfect. So I think we're at time, but you've covered quite a lot of ground there. Have we got any questions, Tim?
Yes, first of all, let me thank you. I really like your dialogue style, really great approach to structure the presentation, really great. I enjoyed it. And now let's come to the questions here. So we have a question. Does it, referring to the lineage part here, does the data in the lineage have to be maintained manually, or is it possible to connect to SSIS or Microsoft Fabric, for example? I think that's the first part of the question. The second one, I will read it out here also. Are ETL transformation steps between the source systems and the data sets also taken into account?
Yeah, great question. I think I've tried to emphasize that bit, that the entire data inventory and the lineage is completely automatically captured by the connectors. We have dedicated ETL connectors which are able to parse the underlying logic, your transformation logic, and then depict the data lineage at the column level. We take it a step further. We represent that logic in Alex. We also pass that on to the Gen AI, so we improve the readability on that. So if people don't understand complex transformation logic, you can use the Gen AI to actually provide you simple English level descriptions of what transformation is happening.
I'll also add to that we have some customers who do what we call top-down catalog curation as well, where they actually bring logical assets into the catalog and basically build the catalog from the top down rather than the bottom up. And then, of course, the perfect model is where you combine both.
So based on your user role, you can start either at the conceptual logical level and then start drilling down to the technical catalog.
So a lot of those items, for example, in the data lineage view, as we pointed out, you had the producer consumer, for example, and you had the technology elements. Those are top down typically. They don't have to be, but they often are.
Let me extend the question a bit, just wondering, because many of my customers do not have a standard data integration tool in place, or a central place of where all logic is stored consistently. They operate more with SQL code, Python code, and so on to bring different steps within the data transformation together. What is your approach to get to those kind of logic and put it into the lineage?
Fantastic. So I think one of our latest releases, Tim, has been our Open Meta Hub. So through our Open Meta Hub, you can think of that as the orchestration engine. We are exposing our connectors, which is our ETL framework for harvesting metadata. So effectively, we can point our SQL parser at any kind of SQL code. We can write custom scripts using Python itself to parse different program languages, bring that all of that in, and it's all controlled through our data hub. So having that Open Meta Hub is you're opening the world of possibilities of curation, of enrichment using any programming language that you want, write any scripts that you want and automate that, right? So you're not just restricted to the 100 odd connectors that we have, but pretty much any technology, you can write any kind of code to kind of process that and overlay that on top.
And those connectors that we have are for databases, reporting tools, ETL tools, and we can even look at the logs, for example, of certain applications to build metadata.
Yep.
Thank you for the answer. Unfortunately, we are running out of time here. 5 minutes is a very short time. Yes, let me thank you for the good presentation here. It was very wonderful and also very exciting to listen to you here. Thanks for all the insights, and please keep also a look into the Q&A section if any more questions will arise, and answer if it works here. So thanks a lot.